everybody. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's my pleasure to chair this webinar called AI at the Crossroads, Navigating Regulation, Ethics, Inclusion and Trust in a Fragmented Global Landscape. The webinar is provided by the IEEE Computational Intelligence Society and also sponsored by the SHIELD Technical Committee. This particular webinar looks at where we are today, 2025. AI is there, it's around us, it's transforming everything, societies, economies, and it's impacting lots of people's lives. We also have to be careful that people are not getting left behind. But where things are difficult is that regulatory frameworks across the world are different. There's conversations about sovereignty and also many ethical dilemmas that are facing us. So what does the future of AI hold? A lot of people on this call will be familiar with the evolution of AI. There's a timeline that's only going to continue to grow. But on the other side of the coin, we have for humanity to be responsible when we use AI. And we've got to consider lots of things. What does legislation look like? What's good governance? How do we assure our systems? And more importantly, how do we take the public with us? Today, I'm so privileged to be chairing this panel. We can see here we have a lot of fantastic people. Dr. Ming from Canada, Professor Vazu Mathosia from Zimbabwe, Professor Jose Morel from Spain, Amanda Horzyk from Scotland, and Professor Tayo from the University of Missouri State University, USA. And without further ado, each one of these will be giving us a position statement about this big particular topic area, and then we're going to go into some panel discussions. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Dr. Ming Hao. Over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Keeley and Tom, for the invitation, and good day, everybody. As you heard from Keeley, that one of the key themes of today's seminar is about trust and also responsibility. So I'm going to share with you in terms of what we have been doing about the requirements for integrating AI products and services into our society. In short, is R for trustworthy AI, responsible, reliable, robust, and resilient human AI symbiosis. Next, please. Yeah, so over the years, as we know, I think everybody here is interested in AI. We know when we may integrate AI into our organizational systems, operations, or even training programs, we understand AI is not a silver bullet, one solution fits all. We know some issues here. Quickly just go through that, and although it's not an inclusive, exclusive list, we know AI has some limitations. Also, we know if we train AI in algorithm models, we have bias. It comes to the AI decisions, we need to understand the transparency, how AI reached the decisions, how they reason from all the data we feed to it. Also, how they can explain to us in terms of decision reached, and also, as we know, most importantly, safety and how the technology is effective to help us. And it involves trust and accountability, and you also leads to the challenges for legal ethical issues. You're going to hear from other panelists today, and from government perspective, how we can develop policy and regulations, right? From engineering perspective, what the validation process should have before we integrate technologies and services into our society, into our day-to-day life. Next, please. So again, from the community perspective, we are all AI stakeholders. Either you are a user or from industry as service provider or government regulators, right? So we all have the responsibility in terms of responsible use of the reliable, robust, and resilient AI services for the trustworthy partnership between human and AI. AI is just a technology around us about 70 years, so it's not new. Anyhow, so next, please. So this is kind of how model in terms of requirements build up the trustworthy AI technology for the teaming between human and AI, because AI is our partner. If you take the human and the AI as agents within the human AI agency, two partners will need to trust each other about how, right? Just like a team, through behaviors, through the performance, see if the system or technology or services are reliable and are robust or resilient. Then everybody needs to be aware. We have to be responsible when we use AI and into our day-to-day operations, into our systems, into our performance program, and also the training program, training technology, etc. So this is really high-level requirements for us, for the society, integrating AI products and technologies and services into basically our day-to-day life. Yeah, I guess I'm going to stop here. Not sure if I used my 5 minutes, but anyhow, that's my statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ming. And what we'll do is we'll go through all the position statements and then come to some questions. So Amanda, over to you.
Thank you, Keeley, for the invitation. Hello, everyone. My name is Alonso, and I'm a doctoral researcher in designing responsible natural language processing at the University of Edinburgh's Futures Institute. I coordinate the AI Law and Regulation section at the International Neural Networks Society, but I also observe a lot of different conversations across AI policy, tables to tech ethics, debates, and discussions on legal frameworks for AI. Next. Today, I want to offer you a provocation. If we truly want to navigate this fragmented AI landscape, we must first agree on what we are optimizing for. For too long, our systems, social, economic, and digital, have been optimizing for profit. The triple bottom line in 1990s, people, planet, and profit, was a breakthrough for corporate sustainability. But today, we need a new paradigm: people, planet, and purpose. Because we cannot sustain an extractive, exploitative system that optimizes for profit while claiming to build ethical AI. Next. To navigate the current landscape, I suggest we first have to understand the risk, navigate the landscape of actors, approaches to governance, to then address the risk through mitigation strategies and operationalization. Next. From our diverse roles, perspectives, and geographies, we're prompted to rethink what technology is for, grounded in the shared recognition that AI represents acritical global issues. Next. And yet, this is the crux of our problem. Our AI governance landscape is massively fragmented. We have overlapping initiatives, conflicting priorities, and a patchwork of rules, each addressing a part of the problem. The risks are complex and interconnected. And from our latest findings with experts representing different sectors, different fields and disciplines, we have seen that the agenda and purpose behind AI might be the problem. Who defines it? The impact on critical thinking, culture and education, automation bias, non-representation, and digital divides. But perhaps most dangerously, regulatory capture, where the AGI narrative is used as a distraction from the very real and immediate problems we face today, like surveillance, transnational repression, and human rights violations. And being able to say which of these risks matters most is almost impossible. They're deeply interdependent. Next. Governments, organizations, and societies are all trying to catch up. From the EU and the OECD to the UN and civil society, every actor plays a role. But as the Center for AI and Digital Policy Index highlighted this year, this landscape remains massively fragmented. We have no coherent approach to even safety and security. Our challenge is that these initiatives often operate in silos by sector, region, or ideology, rather than as a part of an integrated global system. Next. Different approaches to governance are therefore emerging that respond to or contribute to top-down or bottom-up pressures to govern AI responsibly. They advocate for certain approaches at different levels of territorial scope. Some rely on existing mechanisms, others propose augmented or AI-specific frameworks like the AI Act, and they operate at multiple levels, whether international, regional, or national. But they all sort of share some common principles that remain clear, such as democracy, sustainability, legality, human rights, and dignity. But the implementation is quite inconsistent. Next. As Lauren Gillespie reminds us, we are governed not only by the law, but also by markets, social norms, and architecture, the code itself. So when we talk about AI governance, we need to design for all four forces in harmony. If our laws are ethical, but our markets, our incentives are not, or our architecture is optimized for engagement rather than truth, governance fails. Next. So how do we begin to navigate this? We identified some shared principles, and then we have to fix and focus on implementation. We must move beyond principles into practice. As our experts roundtables have shown, this means shaping the purpose and the narrative intentionally, building trust as a key to adoption, creating responsible ecosystem, developing redress mechanisms, and fostering AI literacy. Because literacy is the first step towards governance, alignment, and safety. What we need most now is measurement, a way to translate our principles into tangible accountability. Next. Might need to move to the next slide as well. But on the next slide, what we have done is basically we're bringing interdisciplinary conversations and different representatives from industry, from policy, and from across sectors to work together to co-create for what we see as the big goal of all our efforts. Next. Next. The goal is simple, but profound. Promoting and safeguarding the flourishing of humanity and the planet. And to do that, I say that we must focus on these three things: participation and agency, oversight and accountability, and implementation and shared responsibility by translating our values into coordinated action. Responsible governance is not about compliance checklists. It is moral leadership in action, choosing to optimize for planet, people, and purpose. If we can align around that across disciplines, sectors, and borders, then AI can truly serve everyone, everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Appreciate that. I would now like to welcome Professor Vermusio to talk and give his position statement. Just hoping that you can still hear me. We are doing a really good national panel today. So I'm just making sure everybody's I'll come back, okay, to the next person on the list, if that's okay. And we will come back in a minute. So I'd now like to welcome Professor Jose to give his statement, please.
Keeley, can you go on with slide? Yes, there. Okay, well, my name is Jose Maria Alonso. I'm with the Research Center in Intelligent Technologies in the University of Santiago de Compostela in Spain. And I'm leading here several projects on trustworthy AI with a big focus on how to put together technical and non-technical issues. The starting point, of course, is ethics and morals are not the same. One thing is what everyone thinks to be a good thing, a bad thing, but as a community, as a whole society, we need to reflect together what we consider that is appropriate or not. And this change from different cultures, different traditions, and so on. So this is a starting point. Next, please. In 2018, in the European Union, there was a group of experts that were thinking about how to define trustworthy AI guidelines, and they were agree in a number of principles that need to be considered when we are developing AI that can be trusted by humans. And among these principles, there are 7 principles that are commonly admitted by everyone. The first one is the one related to human agency. We need to respect that humans are able by themselves to know that they are interacting with machines or they are interacting with people. The second one is to avoid any kind of harm to humans, so system needs to be robust, safe, and so on. There are issues related to privacy, transparency, and explainability, also fairness to try to avoid discrimination. There are issues related to social well-being, sustainability in the planet, so not only the humans, but also the planet where we live, because the planet is the house of everyone, you know. And finally, issues related to accountability. Who is accountable when something is wrong? Please, next. But of course, when we are thinking about trustworthy AI, it's challenging how to put all these things together, because we need to think about technical issues, as I said before, but we need also to think about non-technical issues. And it's important not only to say that a system is considered trustworthy if it is lawful, ethical, and robust, but how to evaluate this system, how to audit the system and to know that the system is doing what is expected to do, respecting all these principles that I was referring before. To do that, there are different ways to do. For example, we have ethics of conduct. For example, next, please. IEEE has a code of ethics. We have some attempts to certifications, to standards, and so on. There are other alternatives to try to make an holistic evaluation, considering from aspects that are legal aspects, passing to ethical aspects, and in all the cases, what is really, really important is to consider diversity. Consider that we have human beings that are coming from different parts of the world. So we need to be sure that the system that we are developing are for humans. But the question here is which humans? Humans that are living in Africa, humans that are living in the United States, humans that are living in Europe, wherever in the world you are, you need to feel that the system is respecting your values, are respecting your moral values, but the ethical values that are in your community. So this is really, really important. Next, please. Seems to be some delay when we are passing the slides. Well, the point is that if we are able to develop carefully our technical system, then we can do a design that is going to be trustful by design. That means to make an effort from the beginning to think about consequences scanning, to think who are going to be the stakeholders, who are going to use our system, how they can take profit of that system, and which are the intended and unintended consequences of using this system in a wrong way. So when we are talking to students about ethics, when we are talking about trustworthy AI, I'm always trying to emphasize the fact that education is crucial. We need to train people. We need to teach people about the advantage and disadvantage of technology. Technology by itself is not wrong. Technology by itself is not bad. The bad use of the technology is what can be really harmful for people. And this is what we want to try to prevent. For that, the first step, as I say at the beginning, is ethics and education, and tell people that they have to prevent what they are doing. When we are thinking about engineers, and I told you my background is in engineering, you feel that there are challenges. You try to solve problems, even if they are complex, to find a solution. But we need to reflect nowadays that we are not in the lab. We are doing solutions that are there on the shelf for everyone. And then the question is if we should do some things, not if we can, because we have seen nowadays with huge models that we can do many things. But now I think we need to think together, and that's why it's very important to have multidisciplinary teams like those that are with SHIELD committee, where we have people that are with law background, people with ethics background, people with engineering, mathematics, whatever, to think together what is good, what is bad. Can you go ahead with the slides, Keeley, please? Then in my background, I was working a lot in explainability techniques to make system more transparent. And when we are using these techniques, we can try to discover vulnerabilities in the systems. Discovering vulnerabilities, we can try to improve the system. We can try to make the system better, and we can try to endow the system with trustworthiness. That means that people at the end can use explainability to understand if the models are doing what they are supposed to do or not, and if they are behaving in the right way or not. So at the end, if there is open market where you have different options, different systems that you can select. You can decide if you want to use one system or another system that maybe is not good enough. So here is where we have policy making, we have AI governance. We have to try to identify how to verify that these systems are working properly. Next, please. It's important that we try to put together all the players in this market. We need to have people from academia, people from industry, we need people from policy making, so from the governments, and putting all these pieces together is how we can try to develop a better world using the new technologies that we have. So this way we can engage people with AI, feeling that the technology is trustworthy from an emotional point of view, but also from a rational point of view. So people need to understand why systems are working well or not, and try to understand how they work internally. Okay, but the question is, if we want to certify this, it's not just enough with code of conduct. We need something else, and that's why we need also regulation. And to have regulation is not easy at all, because here it is difficult to have engineers talking with expert domain, for example, with people in medicine, with people in civil engineering. It's much more difficult to make lawyers to talk with engineers and to try to understand each other. And the question is for lawyers to make a good regulation that is just helping humans, that is just protecting humans to be having an arm coming from the bad use of AI. It's important that lawyers are able to conceptualize what artificial intelligence is. And conceptualizing what artificial intelligence is, what artificial intelligence can do, they can think about advantage, disadvantage, pros, cons, and then how to make a system that can evaluate the risk of using this system with or without regulation. So there are many companies that are trying to go for having self-regulation, just only ethics. In my opinion, this is not enough if we are in a global world where we have a lack of harmonization of different cultures, a lot of diversity. So we need to have a consensus. And to do that, we need communication. It's more and more important that people with diverse ways of thinking, diverse backgrounds, they talk together to understand each other and then make an agreement in what we want to do in the future. And without that communication, nothing is done. That is what happened nowadays. There are many people who are not with a critical thinking. This is something that Amanda was already referring to. We need to be able to understand if we really want to use a system that is an intelligent system that could have some risk, and maybe it's worthy or not to use that system. So the last slide is just only related to a summary of how AI Act is working in Europe. And the idea of AI Act working in Europe, I hope that the delay pass and then we can go to the final slide, is a regulation where the idea is think about risks of AI. And with this risk of AI, we consider there is an agreement in Europe, and that's the result of the regulation on AI Act, that some applications are unacceptable. Nobody want to use these applications in Europe because we consider that they are not good for the benefit of the society. There are other applications that we agree we should use AI because it could be something good in the sense that we can be more efficient, more effective, or having better things for humans, but we have to be careful. So that means that we consider this system high risk because they could penalize some people. So we have to design them very carefully and monitor and check that they are not used in the wrong way. And thank you very much for listening to me. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much. Again, apologies everybody for the slight delay, but we will get through this because it's so good, the content. Thank you so much. Busimo, are you back with us now?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Apologies, I want to turn on my video.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to your slides. Forgive me, everybody, but we're just going to go back to your slides and then I will control them. We'll be very, very quick, everybody. So give me a second and we will be able to get this working. Okay, so I will hand over to you now. Please say next slide when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. My name is Vusumuz Maposa. I work at the National University of Science and Technology in Zimbabwe. as the head of IT. So my research interests really are on AI ethics from a global South perspective. Thank you. Next slide.
I'm hoping you can see the slide.
Thank you. When we talk about AI sovereignty, really, we are saying governments, especially those from the global South, they must be able to deploy, develop AI to respond to their socio-economic challenges without having to rely on the global South or without having to worry about the geopolitical influence. So in the absence of the foundational data infrastructure and systems, I think this discussion in the global South is premature because we need the foundational infrastructure for us to really talk about AI sovereignty. So sovereignty also allows countries in the global South to address their critical socio-economic needs without really having to worry about interference from the global North. What is needed is to ensure that we've got all this data captured, this data clean. Most of our systems in the developing world, they're still very, very manual. So we need to ensure that we do the foundational work, we clean our data, we connect our systems, and then we're able to govern them. Sovereignty must be built on the strategic goal where we gain control over the infrastructure by housing key AI systems domestically. For example, Africa only hosts less than 0.1% of the global data centers. Next slide, please. So computational power is very, very key and is the choke point. So nations must aim to host and develop key AI systems locally, including algorithms, their data centers, cloud platforms, to reduce reliance on foreign providers. Then we can say there's AI sovereignty. So as I've said earlier, less than 1% of data centers are located in Africa. So without addressing these challenges, then there is a risk of marginalizing innovators and researchers from the global South. Why? Because all the data centers, all the computational power is concentrated in the global North. So there's need to really partner with development agencies and also regional partnerships and build computational power for the global South. So in the developing world, AI deployment risks are shaped by realities such as fragile information ecosystems. In some cases, these information systems are non-existent at national scale. We have large informal labor markets, which is very, very difficult for AI systems to tap into these markets. And then there's a challenge of resources and infrastructure. So the solution there is to cooperate regionally, where we can pull resources together and expand capacity across borders so that we can attain AI sovereignty. Next slide. So in terms of regulation, sovereignty requires the ability to regulate how personal data or strategic data is collected, stored, and used within national borders for the benefit of the local communities. So we need strong policies that address these issues. We must be able also to compensate those that contribute this data in the building of AI systems. In terms of data quality, we know that AI systems are dependent on the quality of data that they are trained on. So if systems are manual, how can these local data sets be developed? So there's always be a cry on AI sovereignty, on marginalization. So the current reality is that in most developing countries, data is poorly governed, national strategies are emerging, but enforcement and oversight remain limited because the AI ecosystems are poor, or we target policies without working on the foundational infrastructure that is required by these systems. So the solution is for developing countries really to acquire large and diverse data sets that are able to train AI models that reflect on their specific social, cultural context and realities. Then by doing so, we're enhancing AI sovereignty. Again, what is important is the languages that these models speak. So as long as these AI models privilege dominant languages, then millions of citizens in the developing world will remain invisible in the digital sphere. Next. So what is key and important? We know that by 2050, I think Africa is going to double its youth population. So we need to invest in human capacity and talent, and thereby reducing our dependence on foreign tech giants. Some of them who may not even understand the social cultural issues within the global south. So there's need to train our own people. There's need to develop talent so that we can have local startups which are built on social cultural identities of the local communities. So infrastructure also in data investments require human capacity to be effective. And without the AI skills, then even if we've got the infrastructure, there's also a deficiency. Then educational integration, there's need to capacitate our universities, capacitate our colleges, so that AI and data science are integrated into the curriculum. Then there's lifelong learning. We need to expand vocational training and support lifelong learning to ensure that we address the skills deficit so that we're able to participate in the global AI ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through now, and we've got our last panelists as well. Tayo, are you ready? I'll just share the screen.
Hello, everyone.
Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Tayo Bafemi-Ajayi, Associate Professor of Electrical Engineering here at Missouri State University, and also serving as the chair of the CIS Technical Committee on the ethical, legal, social, environmental, and human dimensions of AI and CI. And I just want to say thank you to Keeley for organizing this. So part of what we do as a technical committee, especially through the arm of our recently developed task force, which is the AI ethics, education, and awareness, is really taking the shield initiative, taking the shield on tour initiative, which is going about to educate people on these various dimensions of AI and CI. So this webinar fits directly into one of the key initiatives that we are doing, and so very thankful for the shield members that are on the call here. Jose and of course Keeley and Vasumusu, and I'm very happy to collaborate with Ming and Amanda on this webinar as well. So my role is just to kind of tie in the different position statements that we have in terms of just bringing an overall statement to make sure, because I know we've heard from all of our different wonderful panelists, and just want to make sure that we do not miss out just some of the key things that have been covered. So again, I think one of the key things for us here, just when talking to Keeley about this webinar, is this thing of we are global, right? As you can see from the panelists, even trying to have representation from different aspects of the world. But here we are in a fragmented landscape with respect to AI. And so so at this crossroads, how do we navigate? How do we move forward, right? And I just wanted to point out very key aspects that our panelists have brought up, which we need to take into mind as we go into the panel discussion. One of the key things that Ming had mentioned is about the 4 R's of AI, specifically in terms of developing trustworthy AI, which is, I'll point out too, which is responsibility and resilience. And so as we think about it, and going into what Jose said, and also Amanda, this is not just responsibility from one angle. This is a shared responsibility. So this cannot be fragmented. This has got to be collaborative in terms of our approach. And when we think about it being collaborative, we talk about having the different stakeholders, and even from the technical all the way to the legal and to the policy makers, which Amanda has alluded from, coming from a legal and regulatory standpoint, and as well as coming in even from the technical aspect, with Jose developing the explainable AI, is going in to pull in our stakeholders together. So the question, he said, is it's not about can we do it, it's about should we do it. Again, operationalizing ethical AI. And coming even to what Basimus has said, we ought to remember that AI is built on infrastructure. And so we lose out, and we cannot make the assumption that the infrastructure is always there in every society. And when we make that assumption, what happens is that results in a digital divide. We have societies and groups that are being left out, which is going to be part of our discussion today. But AI is driven by data, and where you have data of low quality, data not properly cleaned out, that affects the output and the quality and the impact, and the limited computing resources. I think sometimes in the highly developed countries, we forget that, and we think, oh, well, everybody should just have high-speed internet or whatever, like we do. And so as we think about just the impact of AI and moving forward in the crossroads, the question is, what can we do to move the needle forward such that it benefits for all? So thank you.
Thank you so much, Taya, and thank you to all our panelists for their really excellent statements. What we're going to do now is move into the panel discussion. The first question we're going to look at is, how can governments balance innovation with safety in AI regulation, especially in light of diverging global approaches like the EU AI Act and sector-specific models, say in the US and China? I'm going to go to Amanda first for this one.
Thank you, Keeley. Yes, that's a really good question, and actually, I'd love to share some insights with you from just a policy convening that I've been to a few weeks ago with diplomats, with ambassadors from 12 different missions across the world, tackling this question of AI global safety. I just want to highlight that governments are aware of the need for legislation to address risks and particularly safety. At the regulatory level, you will notice typically governments are thinking about the product level, the individual rights and freedoms level, collective societal or planetary problems and issues to address. And AI regulation is there to help address some of these risks and possible harms that can either manifest through the inappropriate use or the development of AI, harms that concern us today or that we're anticipating will happen in the future. And countries are really on the race to address this. We are playing catch up, even in international arenas like the UN. The UNESCO has proposed the AI ethics recommendations back in 2021 to other leading jurisdictions like the European Union with the AI Act. And also globally, other countries are introducing more principles-based approaches, sectoral approaches, or they reuse existing frameworks like data protection laws to think about AI-related harms. But what they highlight and what came across these discussions is that currently we don't lack another framework or policy document across jurisdictions. What we are lacking is effective implementation. And this was the biggest call across these missions, is that we need to work collaboratively across disciplines, across sectors, across experts to think about how can we put these principles that we've talked about so hard and thought about so long into practice to assess their impact, improve them over time, think about how do we measure. So I think this is the key to approach this sort of innovation regulation dichotomy, is to start speaking a shared language. One of the experts at their panel told us that, we're speaking ethics, they're speaking adoption. The challenge is, where do these two connect so that we can actually achieve the same purpose? Understanding the needs of our stakeholders will be necessary to bridge these sectorial interests. But the one key word that emerged across debates is building trust. And trust will not come if we don't understand the technology. And to facilitate the understanding, we need to start investing into AI literacy, and not only AI literacy, but critical AI literacy. And one thing that also came across is that financial commitment to support this research work. The financial support shows commitment, and working across these sectors will require collaboration and upskilling, and especially looking at the weakest members, at the weakest parts of our society, which might be systemically excluded from these conversations. Remembering that decision-making must happen at the most appropriate level, and sometimes that means in the village, in the region, in the neighborhood where these decisions have to take place. We have to respect the digital sovereignty of the different countries that are also being involved, without suppressing their own interests, to support this aspect of, this shared recognition that we are one humanity, one planet, if we want to not only survive the age of AI, but we want to thrive in it. So that's my thoughts on this question.
Wow, Amanda, thank you so much. Because we've got a lot of questions and time, I'm actually going to ask Ming to come in here about the public trust, in AI, right? Rumour has it, lots of international surveys that are going around, that trust is generally declining, okay? What do you think that concrete steps can industry, government, and maybe even civil society do to rebuild confidence and trust in AI systems? What's your opinion?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, I think Amanda, has indicated few steps or different strategies. Based on my own personal or say department experience, really is we should take an interdisciplinary approach, also working together as a community. As I stated earlier, with all stakeholders, I think Jose also mentioned that, and Tail too. In terms of the collaboration among the stakeholders in academia, industry, and government, even international regulatory bodies. AI is not new to us. As I mentioned, it's been about 70 years already. It's just a technology, right? So also we can learn so much from our past experience. If we remember the atomic energy, if we can have something like the international regulatory body, or at least collaboration agency like the International Atomic Energy Agency or the World Nuclear Association, something like that. So the governments working together with academia, industry, in terms of understanding the limitations and strength of both human and technology, in this case AI or machine intelligence, then come up with regulations, policy. Europe has been doing a great job in terms of AI Act, etc. And also to operationalize, as Jose pointed out, operationalize AI say potential power, or we have policy, regulations, etc. Then the engineering process for example, the best practice, industry best practice, and also standards. Given my experience leading NATO standardization organization, developing AI-enabled autonomy standards, and also through demonstrations, education approaches in terms of educate. I guess several panelists already mentioned that at the general public, understanding again the limitations of technology, also the strength both AI and human. And for example, we developed a technology called something about AI-enabled decision-making supporting system for web engagement. The AI system or decision aid a lot kind of reinforced the operationalization of the AI policy, international laws when we engage with weapon system before we launch lethal weapons in the killing chain, especially the robots, especially the drones, etc. It applies to all other civil applications in terms of transportation, in terms of air traffic control, in terms of even space exploration, etc. So basically, really is a a community approach as a society to educate the public in terms of the strengths and limitations of both human and AI, and then how we can have the regulation and policy developed with consultation from academic experts, industry practitioners, and the government authorizations with an international or maybe more international bodies to coordinate and collaborate. So yeah, so again, so when you see my first slide, we have some publications there to demonstrate the exercise we had with AI-enabled technology to support the web engagement and following international laws. That's a clear indication of what we can demonstrate to the public, to the decision makers, to the policy and makers and regulators. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Wow, that was fantastic. So I'm mixing the questions up a bit, so our panelists are gonna get really nervous now, but I'm gonna bring a few people in, okay? So how do we actually ensure that ethical AI development is not just this set of principles? We've talked about how do we operationalize, right? But how is it a lived reality, right, across different contexts for different people? Because everybody's on a different journey, as we've seen, legislation, in terms of, say, for example, data centers and architecture. So I'd like to go, I'm going to go to Jose first and then Vesumius for that one.
Thanks, Keeley. Very shortly, because we are running out of time. I think that it's important to try to model context of AI, try to engage people and make them aware of what they are interacting with, because we know to interact with humans. It's a pity that every time people is losing maybe their ability to interact with other people because they are more like just in a virtual world. But now we need to learn how to interact with this new artificial intelligence based technology. If we don't know how to do this engagement, we really are not able to get maximum profit. So how we can evaluate this? My point is that we need to do this system by design to try to adopt the standard that people are developing. But then the question is how to verify if these standards are followed or not. And we have a problem because when we are talking about AI, we talk about generative AI, huge models that are really complex and really difficult to verify what they are doing. They are black models. Nobody knows really how they were trained with data was used to train these models. So this opens a lot of problems here. And then what we need is first AI literacy, as the other panelists were talking about, teach people to have a critical thinking, and then try to have multidisciplinary teams that are able to monitor and to warning about potential vulnerabilities, potential infraction of the things that we are doing. Because notice, for example, with AI Act, the regulation is there, and now are the companies who has to declare that they are compliant with this regulation. And then if someone say, no, you are not compliant, you are doing something wrong, then lawyers enter into the game and we will see what happens. That's my point.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Bamizio, I know you've already gave us a fantastic answer about AI sovereignty, and I think that was very, very enlightening. In terms of ethical AI development from your perspective, okay, how can we do it better? How can we bring people on a journey with us? Yep, apologies, there may be a bad connection from my side there. So what we're going to do, we're just going to move on a little bit, but please do come in as soon as you're back. Okay, so my big question, I know we've only got a few minutes, but this is so important for me. I often think in society, we talk about digital literacy and we talk about AI literacy, and often it's like us, we're kind of like academia or in privileged positions, and we're pushing this kind of literacy onto people, right? What do you think people need? How do we close and manage that AI skills gap to prevent digital exclusion, particularly on people who are maybe marginalised or from low income regions? Tayo. You're on mute, Tayo.
Oh, thank you. Can you share my slides so I stay on point with that?
Okay, I'm just going to try and do this. Sorry, you threw me there with the slides. My apologies, everybody. I've now lost the share button. Here we go.
If not, that's fine. I can.
There we go. And we'll just switch over. You should be able to see it.
Okay, so with the question is about closing the AI skills gap and preventing digital exclusion, is particularly for the marginalized communities in low-income regions. And I think that's part of what Samusu brought in. But we have to remember that the digital exclusion implies unfairness in data representation and potentially biased models, right, that we don't have that. But a key driver is really the limited computing power, infrastructure, and resources. Again, I think we really need to get off from the mindset that everybody has access to all of the latest technology. Like Ming mentioned, really what's driving AI as we've seen it today is the availability of the data that is being produced by the technology, right, and the technology. And so what can we do different? So if you go on to the next slide, I like to come from the perspective of what can we as a person like you do differently. So again, my area of expertise is in application of explainable AI to biomedical applications. So I love challenges like this, right? This is from the PhysioNet data set that they organize challenges. And so one of it that my team and I were working on is the one from 2024 that has to deal with digitization and classification of ECE images, and it's really to benefit the societies where they're still using paper ECG images, right? That is printed on paper. But as we're developing these models, we're assuming that they also have the resources to actually conduct that, and but they may not. And so I think we have to think about that. I mean, challenges like this are good and great, and we need to again think about societies that are marginalized, but the infrastructure and the resources matter. And so go on to the next slide. So then what can I do? Taking away what can you do, right? I think the more that we are privileged to develop open access AI educational materials is very, very beneficial to helping such that anybody, and making it such that it's easily accessible from a phone device. I mean, even in developing countries and third world countries such as in Africa, a lot of people have a cell phone. Some even have multiple, 2 or 3 cell phones, right? And so having access to AI literacy materials that are open access, I think it's really, really key. And raising the awareness, you know, again, you may not be able to travel out of your region, but I always think about it as within proximity. So in my lab, for example, on my campus, who can I reach out to, right? Because guess what? The person that I reach out to and educate could then in turn reach out to their own network. And so I think, again, as we cannot change, we cannot make all of the changes, right? But the question is, what is one thing that I can do differently? How can I, and I think it even starts with broadening participation. So again, it's not, I mean, you think about the region you're in, but even with that within that region, what does it look like broadening participation? What is the closest, again, I do graphical networks and all of that. We're always thinking about the nearest neighbor, right? What is the nearest neighbor in terms of broadening participation within your research, within the application, within the legal aspect, within the even within the users, right? Stakeholders in what you're using, and then giving back whatever opportunities we have to give back to enhance computing infrastructure and resources. I think it's helpful. You may not be able to do all of this, but I feel like if we keep this at the forefront of our mind and just think about what can I do differently, I think as each one of us think about what we can do differently, then together collectively we can make an impact.
Wow, thank you very, very much, Tayo, for that. So, because we're almost at the end, I would just like everybody to give a final thought, each panelist, if that's okay. I'm going to go to Ming first.
Me first. Okay. Again, I think yeah, wonderful different perspective. I think as a community, really is key here is how we can integrate AI products, services into our society, into our system, into our organization. So we are responsibly and safely and securely use technology. And then we need to have a community approach in terms of from engineering perspective, the practice and process, and from legal and ethical perspective, etc. And I'll stop here because giving more people time for other panelists. Thank you.
Okay, Amanda.
Thank you, Keeley. Just to leave you with that, to navigate and shape a future where we don't leave anybody behind, I think we need to break through the different disciplinary divides through co-creation by bringing multi-sectorial, multilateral, multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholder forums. I don't think that any single nation, actor, or individual can do it alone. And we need to ensure that this platform is one where people feel empowered to contribute as we try to steward this technology for the common good.
Thank you so much. Busimo, can you hear us? I hope you can. We've missed you.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yay! Would you like to offer a final word for the panel, please?
Thank you. I think we need to move beyond abstract principles and provide a clear, actionable roadmap. I think for the Global South, we need to concentrate on the foundational layers, data architecture, and inclusive skills development.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Jose?
For me, the concentration of too much knowledge, resources, and power, even political or economical power, in hands of a very few companies developing AI technology nowadays is very risky. And the excessive of automation associated to AI can not only increase inequality and produce a bad world or a worse world, but also can inhibit the ability of humans to develop some cognitive abilities and to make new disruptive technologies that should come in future. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Tayo?
I want to end with operationalizing AI, ethical AI. Let's move this into practice. Let's go from theory into practice, whatever that looks like for each one of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one thing I would ask is that when we actually look at vulnerable people in society, we often don't ask, do they want this technology? And in a world where productivity and efficiency gains are kind of the thing that's driving a lot of the consumer need for AI at this moment in time, sometimes we have to sit back and say, my parting thought is, do we need to make reasonable adjustments for those in society, okay, so they can also come on the journey with us? And I will leave there. It is actually 6 o'clock. This hour has flown through. I would like to thank all our wonderful panelists for taking the time to participate, and I'm sure this is just the start of many, many conversations. So I'd like to wish you all good evening or good morning and a wonderful weekend, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keeley.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Keeley.
Bye.